Welcome to the Morning Star Show with Super Sly 75. You're listening to onthewakeupradio.com. Sign up for OTWTube.com, uncensored free speech platform. Shout out to our super producer, Cindy Ashby. All shows are live on thewakeupradio.com. Catch replays on SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, as well as OTWTube.com. And now back to your host, Super Sly 75.
Uh-oh. Um, I got bad news, everybody. I got bad news. I got really bad news. Um, wow. So I watched Emancipation last night, and shoot, I got bad news. You want to hear the bad news? This movie was fucking great. This movie was great. This movie was great. No bad news. The only bad news I got for y'all is this movie is great. Damn it. Sorry, I'm lacking right now. Yo, I'm lacking. Cord. Listen, this movie was great. I listen. I'm tired of slave movies too, y'all. Trust me, trust and believe. But I'm sorry. This movie is great, and we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it. I know some of y'all upset with me right now. Like, Slosby, somebody paid Sly to say this. No, nobody paid Sly to say this. This movie was great. This movie was fucking great. Great. Oh, come on. Hold up. Because I'm trying to port the footage over. So just bear with me. I know what the problem is. Hold on. That. This. That. Yeah, Red, we still good for the night. Hold on, y'all. Just bear with me. I'm trying to port this over real quick. Okay, my bad. My bad. I need to port over footage. I need y'all to understand. I need y'all to understand how good I think. Okay, take that out. That. All right, so sorry, y'all. Please forgive me. Okay. Now to myself. God, yes, verify. God damn it. Everything's verification. Verify this. Verify that. Like it's. Okay. Hold on. Shit. Okay, I'm back. Here we go. This movie was awesome. This movie was. Listen, Antoine Fuqua is better than Spike Lee. Antoine Fuqua, in my eyes, is better than Spike Lee. Antoine Fuqua, put if we're doing greater than less than, Antoine Fuqua, the triangle eats Antoine Fuqua greater than Spike Lee. Yeah. The color palette he used is these really muted colors, right? It wasn't completely black and white, but you got enough of these dull, muted colors. Oh, this movie should have been on the big screen. This movie should have been on the big screen. Beautiful. Cinematography, beautiful. It looks like a big ass expensive movie. Beautiful. Oh my God, the color palette, man. When the horse and the carriage is walking up and it's these really, really muted greens. Antoine Fuqua, better than Spike Lee. Better than Spike Lee. Before I go ham, let me get into it. Listen, no, it's about Peter, whipped Peter. And you're doing yourself a disservice. That's the wrong attitude to have. This movie, I took all feelings and emotions out of it. By the time I got done watching it, I was watching this shit like, this is a great film. Right before the Oscar campaign push. I know he's been banned from receiving Oscars. This film is going, man, listen. This movie's going to get a lot of fucking buzz. I'm telling. Beautiful film. Hot Chief, what's happening? Everybody, the usual suspects are here. I don't watch slave movies, so take my word for it. Now, the only thing you would find wrong with it is because they made Peter like a hardcore Christian. That's my only real slight against it in the narrative and the story board, whatever. Peter is a hardcore Christian. I'm just like, oh, here we go again with this bullshit. But outside of that, this movie is the bee's knees. So let's get into it. Yes. Well, you're going to have to take my word for it, okay? All right. This movie, Magnifico. It's on Apple TV. They should have put this thing in the theaters. because a 4K TV, the scope of this movie, it just feels really, really big. It feels like it should have been on a big ass screen. I think they did this movie a disservice by not putting it on the big screen. Okay? Do not complain about slave movies when Wakanda Forever is at $800 million. I don't want to hear it. I'm sorry. You cannot sit here and tell me and complain about slave movies while Wakanda Forever sits at $800 million. I don't want to hear it. You're not going to get any sympathy from me out of that one. Now, Carrie Chapman. All right. Okay. Let me get caught up in these comments. We about to go ham. Thundercats in the house. Yes, listen, Antoine Fuqua. If he's not one of the best directors, he is easily the best black director. I put Antoine Fuqua even over Ryan Coogler. Ryan Coogler does not have the body of work that Antoine Fuqua has. All right, Antoine Fuqua, nothing but smashes. Nothing but smashes. Nothing but smashes. He does not miss. You understand? He does not miss. Now, let me download the best part of this movie. Okay. Now, look at Will Smith. Will Smith. Okay, so Peter is Haitian. And it took me a while to figure out, like, is he playing an African or somebody with a really bad Creole accent? So come to find out, Peter is Haitian. But I don't know, I didn't think it was the best Haitian accent because it sounded like some broken African dialect. Because like I said, I watched the trailer. I'm like, oh, another African? He's playing an African? No, he's playing a Haitian. All right, I don't know. Probably not his best dialect because in the Concussion movie, he played the African doctor, much better accent. But this one is like, I don't know what are we doing here, bruh? Okay, still nonetheless, Will, has his chops. His chops is still there. Clearly, the man can still act. Play emotional scenes and shit. Like he can cry on cue. Let's get into it. I mean, as far as anybody else that stands out, Ben Foster's in this, but he plays the bad guy. I mean, how hard is it to play a racist slaver? I mean, that's not much of a stretch. But Ben Foster can act. Fell asleep on it. What? All I see was the running. Doing yourself a disservice. It's a great film. I stand on that. As good as Glory. I'll say this. When they take on, because it's the same time frame. 1863, then it moves to 1865. Emancipation Proclamation, slaves are freed. It's the Civil War. So the moment when the general says, okay, Black Regiment, we're gonna test you guys out, and they march head on into the killing fields to take Port Hudson. It gave me Glory vibes. You remember at the end of Glory when they took the port, right? And they're all just getting gunned down and blown to bits, and everyone's just dying a horrible death. Gave me Glory vibes. Okay, that scene is just as good as the end scene of Glory. Like it's like the Civil War version of Saving Private Ryan. So when they're marching, oh my God, it's a powerful scene. So when they get the okay to march, right, and they're within gun range, right, they're marching, and they're just getting picked off. You hear pew pew pew, dudes are just dropping, and they're still marching. They haven't come in. They're not close enough to launch a full frontal attack, and they're still marching in formation. And you hear the bullets pinging, and they're just dropping like flies, getting hit in the head, shoulder, leg. I mean, it's a free for all. I was like, God damn. And then they get shot. He's like, no, we're still not dead. We're still not dead. I was like, oh. All right, let me get into it. Yes, cinematography on point. Thank you. I'm not crazy. I know my movies. I know what I'm watching. I'm telling you. Yes, he was Louisiana Creole. All right. Tell the truth. Yeah, he did not nail the Haitian, because like I said, if you didn't know he was Haitian, you thought it was a very broken African dialect. You know what I'm saying? So let's get into it. It's thank you. It goes stupid hard. Stupid hard. I'm not here to lie to y'all. Chaz, what's happening? Okay. I gotta get into it. I gotta get into it. Here we go. Wait, let me pull my footage. Because I mean, the most powerful scene is the monologue he gives in front of the general, right? But we'll get to that scene in a minute. So, okay, 1863. The opening scene is Peter is washing his wife's feet, and he's quoting Bible scriptures, right? Like I said, I was just like, oh, here we go with the Bible shit. But once again, Peter's a hardcore Christian. All right. He's then taken by Confederate soldiers. He's shipped off to a Confederate railroad site where they're building a railroad because once again we're knee deep in the Civil War, and he's taken for work, slave labor. But as they take him, he's like, I will walk, and he fights off the slavers. He bites one of them and shit. So he's one of those Kunta types. Like he's a fighter, right? This one's gonna be looking to run away. He's a Django. All right. He's the Haitian Creole Django. All right. So as they pull into the Confederate camp railroad site, you see heads of black slaves on pikes, or like Vlad Tepes, right? And then a slave is branded, a runaway with the R on the side of his cheek. That looked painful. Like, it's very, very good acting. The way he screams as he's being branded on the side of his face, I'm like, you know what? That sounds about right. Okay. Peter then meets Thomas. He tells Thomas, it's just work, and God is with us. Right? It's just work. His accent is ridiculous, but whatever. Okay. So then at the night, they're chained into this cage and thrown into this cage. The branded slave that tried to run away, he's brought in, right? So then, Peter meets Thomas. He tells Thomas, it's just work, and God is with us. And then the branded slaves, he gives pushback. He says, where is God? Why hasn't he set you free? He tells Peter, so, well, go ahead and stand up and praise your God for us to see. Stand up and get up out of here. If your God is so powerful and almighty, right? And he says, God is nowhere. He said, they tell us to be a good slave and be obedient to your masters. Peter says, I do not know why God shows himself to people and not others. This is literally his accent. I'm quoting his accent bar for bar. I do not know why God does not choose to show himself. Okay? He said, God says many things. I don't know why. All right? So then he says, I will continue to pray for you. All right? So then Peter's forced to work the next day, following day. Peter's is forced to work during his lunch break. Peter overhears the slavers talking about the Emancipation Proclamation, saying that Lincoln set the slaves free. Lincoln's getting desperate, and that slaves are heading to Baton Rouge to fight for the North. All right. So Ben Foster's character, his name is Fassel. He's the main baddie. He runs the camp. All right. He tells Peter he walks the earth because of him. He's now his dog. So then Peter responds to him. He says, perhaps you will give me some of that fine meat that you give your dogs. I was like, oh, he's quippy. He's got the comebacks, right? So then, Fassel's like, okay, we'll see. You're different. You're one of those types. You're different, all right? So the next day, as a punishment for getting smart with Fassel, Peter's chained up, on his knees, chained up. And Fassel has one of his German shepherds barking in his face, and he's holding the chain. Okay? So imagine being chained up, collar, neck, hands, and feet in front of this German shepherd that's just dying to get at you, and he's just holding it back with a chain. Okay? God damn. All right, then later on, Peter tells the slaves they're free. They need to get to Baton Rouge to meet Lincoln's army. It's a 5-day trek through the swamp. So the word's getting out. The Emancipation Proclamation is spreading. Okay? The next day, Peter is forced to shovel up a mass grave. Now, here's the kicker. There's white slaves here, too. There's white slaves here, too. If you watch my live about the forgotten cause of slavery, it's because they were afraid that the slave was going to enslave everybody. And the white folks in the North were like, not for our good white people. Right? Because they were seeing white slaves come from the South. Like, what are you doing as a slave? Well, you're white. So there's white slaves at this internment camp. And they're working backbreaking labor as well, too. So while Peter is shoveling the mass grave, because an old black man dies, he's told to drag his body to the mass grave. He says a prayer, throws a body in the mass grave. So then he uses the shovel, he beats up 3 of the slavers, and everybody takes their chance to go free, even the white slaves. So while everybody's revolting, the slave revolt's happening, Fassel is shooting down all the slaves. He shoots the white slaves first. He shoots the fleeing white slaves first. Irish. Well, I say white for general context, but yes, okay. So then Peter and 3 other slaves. Thomas is one of them, the young one. They run off into the swamp. They cross the lake, but then Thomas is caught by one of the German shepherds. Okay, so as Peter and the 2 other slaves make it across the marsh, Thomas is caught by one of the German shepherds. Fassel's like, look here, just tell me where they went, and I'll let you go. So then Thomas, not knowing any better, he gives up the information. He tells them where they headed to. They're headed southwest to Baton Rouge. So then he says, okay, you can go. So as Thomas is crossing the marsh, Fassel shoots him in the back. Peter and the other 2 slaves split up, so they'll be harder to track. So everyone goes their separate ways. Peter's been shot in the leg. Peter is seen running from another plantation. He steals some water. A little white girl says, "Runner, runner!" And she rings the bell. "Runner, runner!" And her daddy goes grab the shotgun. They alert Fassel, so they hear the bells ringing. They hear the little girl, "Runner, runner!" All right, so they all converge on Peter's location. Peter then hides in the water to avoid capture, so they can't see him. They're like, see, he. All right, so they're like, hey, he must have already crossed or he drowned, right? So then Peter's attacked by an alligator. Now listen, we watch a lot of alligator movies, and somehow the person always survives the alligator. It's really silly and comical, but in this one, I was like, I could see this happening. So as he's getting out of the water, he's pulled in. The alligator does the death roll, and he turns with the alligator, and then somehow the alligator lets go and comes back in for another frontal attack. Peter grabs a log, holds it in his mouth to hold it off, and he begins to stab the alligator at the top of the head. He gets bit up. He gets bit initially, but I'm like, okay, I could see this happening. If you survive the death roll and it lets go, I could possibly see this happening. So he kills the alligator, makes his way out. All right. Peter's wife then has a dream that he's alive and he's coming back. The kids are worried. She's like, he's coming back. Kepa, Kepa. Hold on. She keeps telling the kids, Kepa, Kepa. Hold on. Your father will return. All right. So then later on, Fassel and the trackers find the dead alligator that Peter killed. They're in shock. They're like, who the hell can kill an alligator barehanded? But he had a knife, but they don't know this, right? They cut it open, and there's nothing inside the alligator's stomach because they assume the alligator ate him. All right. Fassel later on tells his backstory of how he became a slaver. Fassel backstory. He had a black nanny. He liked his black nanny. He says he said she took care of him, fed him, taught him things. He thought they were friends. He thought they were friends. And then he asked his father, could she eat with the family? And the father then says, then what? And then he asked another question about the nanny. And then the father says, okay, well, then what? And then the father tells little young Fassel, he says, first, they'll eat our food, take our jobs, then steal our land. Give them a crumb, they'll take over the country. And then Fassel, as a little kid, he feels guilty. He says, well, Daddy, I've been giving the nanny food because she was hungry. He was sneaking food to the nanny because she was hungry, because that was his friend. He's a little kid. He doesn't know any better, right? So then the daddy takes a knife and stabs up the black nanny, leaves her in the yard, takes her 3 days to die. Her last words to little young Fassel was, why? So then as Fassel grows up, moved to St. Louis, he says all he saw was the nannies, the faces of the nanny. He said they were running, hiding, surviving. He says they're not idiots, they're persistent. And then he says, if one gets free and another, and another, and another, then one day they return the favor. Like, okay, all right, got my attention. The next day, Peter covers himself in mud. He finds a high tower. It still had a fire that was put out not too long ago. He cauterizes his wounds. He finds some honey. He uses some smoke to smoke out the bees to grab some honey. But then Fassel sees the smoke from the high tower, so now he knows where he is. So he heads to Peter's location. Peter finds a boat. Peter's wife finds out she's been sold. She'll have a new husband. Okay. Peter then runs into slave number 2. Right. This is the one that has the gun. This is the one that was like, get away from me. You know, you crazy. You're a madman. But whatever. So then Peter hides while so they're discovered. Peter hides in a tree trunk while number 2 runs up a tree. And he says, I'm not coming down, I'm coming back. I'm a free man. They shoot slave number 2, he falls out the tree. So then Fassel questions him. He says, where's your friend at? And he's all fucked up. He's shot. He's dying. So then he drowns him in the mud. He never snitched. Literally 10 feet over in a tree trunk is Peter hiding. So they cut off his head. Fassel cuts off his head, says, take the head back to the camp. All right. And they continue the search elsewhere. Peter then runs off. And he runs off. Okay. Back at the slave camp, Peter's wife purposely injures herself in the cotton gin. She sticks her arm in and tells her son to push her daughter to push the button to smash her arm in the cotton gin on purpose so she would not be sold away from her family. Ouch. Okay. Peter then makes it to an abandoned plantation. He rescues a little slave girl who gives him a cross. She's dying. Okay. She tells the little girl, God loves you. God loves you. He's then discovered by 2 of Fassel's trackers. Now, one of Fassel's trackers is a light-skinned black. Okay. It's light-skinned black. So then Peter uses the cross as a stabbing weapon before stabbing the first tracker in the throat. And then he grabs a gun and shoots the light-skinned black tracker. And so as the light-skinned black is dying, Peter tells him, you're the worst. Right? Because nothing worse than a black slaver, right? Okay. All right. Okay. So then Peter flees. He runs from the plantation, but then Fassel catches up to him. All right. Peter shoots one of his dogs. Peter then hears the cannon fire. So he's close to a Union site. Okay. He sees the Union Navy. But then Fassel catches up to him, knocks him down. And then Fassel points a gun at him and offers him a piece of meat. He says, beg for the meat, beg. He wants him to beg for the meat. Because remember that joke he told back at the camp? Maybe one day you will give me a fine piece of meat like your dogs. So he wants him to beg for the jerky. It's beef jerky, I believe. He won't. Peter says nothing. Then Fast was shot in the neck. Shot in the neck. And then Peter tells him, you're not my God. You're not my God. Then all these black Union soldiers just come out of converge out of nowhere. So all the black Union soldiers converge out of nowhere, right? And the one soldier, and I've seen him in a bunch of movies, I forget his name, but he's got the green eyes. He's an extremely dark complected man, but he's got green eyes. You've seen this man in movies. I forget his name, but you see him, he stands out. All right. Peter made it to Baton Rouge. So then as they line him up to take information, the captain asks him, do you know your age? He said, I don't know. He says, you pick one for me. So he picks 48. He says, where are you from? He says, I'm from Haiti. Okay. Now Peter's like, okay, I need to go find my family. He's like, nah, listen, no. The captain's like, no, listen, this is not how that's work. You can either work in a federal farm, or you can become drafted into the army to help free your family. All right, so he really doesn't have a choice. So he's drafted into the army. He runs into slave number 3. He's injured. His leg is injured, so he's in the infirmary. He runs into slave number 3. They meet up, exchange pleasantries. He's like, I got you. I'll take care of you or whatever. I'll look for you, whatever. Okay, so now Peter is asked to have his picture taken by the white photographers. And this is the infamous picture that we've all grown up seeing with his back. So as the white folk are trying to get him to position himself, he's like, don't touch me. And they're like, oh, okay. Okay. So he takes off his shirt, and the photographer's like giving him directions, like turn to the left a little bit, put your hand on your hip like this, and then turn this way. And that's the infamous picture we all know of whipped Peter. Okay. And of course they're horrified because they're like, oh my God, look at his back. All right. So then the captain with the green eyes takes him to meet the general, because the general's trying to come up with a plan to break a stronghold of the Union. They have to take Port Hudson. Okay. And the only way for them to take Port Hudson is a direct frontal attack, which is the same frontal attack in Glory, if I remember correctly. Okay. Same timeline. All right. So that battle did take place. That Black Regiment basically was, they were the sitting ducks. They were the ones that first in. Everybody take all the barrage of bullets, and everybody else will converge in. Okay. So Peter has insight. The general was like, oh, so you're the nigger that came from there. How did you survive 5 days in the swamp? And he says, well, what did you see there? He said, they're building the railroad. He said, well, okay. Did they have guns, cannons? Not like those, but bigger. So it was Confederate railroad and camp where they were transporting, or they're setting up a railroad to transport, goods and services for the Confederate, and the big ass cannons. Okay. So he has insight. So the general's like, okay. So then the best, most powerful scene in this entire movie sums it all up right here. All right. I have to play this. This is why this movie is so fucking good. Hold up. Here we go.
Doesn't mean you're fit for combat. In closed circles, there's the great Negro question. Are you fighters or are you runners? You know what I see here? Disobedience. Dismissed. Come on now. Come on, boys into town. Come on, let's move. I fight them. They beat me. They whip me. They string me up. They sell me. They throw me down a well. They pull me out and beat me again. And I fight them again. They cut me. They burn me. They burn my neck. They burn my feet. They break the bones in my body. More times than I can count. But they never break me.
We'll test that metal. Captain, your men attack at dawn.
What? Listen. I was like, hell yeah. I fight them. Okay, all right. So the general okays it, tells the captain with the green eyes, y'all go at dawn. And this is the part where they literally march straight into direct gunfire, cannon fire. So as they're marching, still in formation, like I said, it's just like Private Ryan, the Civil War version. Antoine Fuqua, masterful job, masterful. You hear the bullets pinging, whizzing by, and the men are just dropping headshots, and they're still just marching in formation because they're not in range just yet. And then that battle sequence, oh my God, they got decimated. But then once again, Peter gets shot, and then he finds the green-eyed captain. He's like, we're not dead yet. We're not dead. And he rallies the troops, and they charge, one final charge, and they take over this shit. It was glorious. It was glorious. Okay. Listen. Oh, he's got some awards coming. He's got some nominations. Look, he's gonna get a Golden Globe nomination. Off top, you know. Maybe possibly another Academy Award nomination. Listen, this movie came out at the right time. We're gonna forget about this slap in a minute. Okay? We're gonna forget about this slap in a hot minute. This is okay, I'm getting the rest of it. Okay. So then they march from plantation to plantation, letting the slaves know that they're free. So they come back to Clinton, Peter's plantation, and he's looking for his family. He runs into the house. I forget his wife's name, but he's looking for her, and he comes out. He's like, where? She's not there. She's not there. And so then towards the end, he's looking around, screaming his wife's name. Then he sees one of his kids. Sees the kids. And then here comes the wife, and her arms all jacked up, and they run and embrace. You know, I was like, oh my God. I was like, yo, it was beautiful. And so then, yeah, he finds his family. They embrace. End scene. This was a magnificent movie. This is not a slave movie. No. This is a movie that took place in the slave era, but this is not a slave movie. This was what do you want to call it? Semi-fictional, semi-historical movie about love and determination and the will to survive all encounters and obstacles. Vanglorious. Kudos to Antoine Fuqua. Kudos to Will Smith. Kudos to the green-eyed captain. You know what I'm saying? Yo, I'm telling y'all. Will Smith slap who? This movie is stupid good. I wish this thing should have been on the big screen. If you got a 4K TV, you'll realize those pan shots when it pans back and pans up and out. You can be like, God damn, this should have been on the big screen because my TV's not big enough to handle these shots. Beautiful. And then, like I said, the muted colors. It's not completely black and white, but it's muted. Very, very soft palette use. Oh, this is a gorgeous film. Beautiful film. Man, listen, this is not a slave movie. I would not categorize this as a slave movie. Okay. Oh, okay. Shot in the actual land. Peter Rand, that's what's up. Is it in theaters? Really? So is it limited or? Because I didn't see anything nationwide for it. because normally when they do the same day and date as the movies and VOD, it's usually in theaters is a limited run or limited amount of theaters. But listen, yeah, Antoine Fuqua is the hands down top 10 directors in Hollywood. He's far and above better than Spike Lee. Listen, you pick five of Spike Lee's best movies, and to me would be The Miracle of Saint Anna, right? I take Spike's best historical film, The Miracle of Saint Anna, which is a dope movie. I think that's his best movie ever. That was a deep, deep movie. But Antoine got smashes, man. Antoine's got smashes, hit after hit. It's just an enclave of just excellent, excellent work. You know, Spike B sometimes hit or miss. Antoine just hit you over the head with a fucking hammer, right? This was an excellent movie. I recommend everybody go see it. Do not convince yourself or tell yourself this is a slave movie. It just happens to be a semi-historical movie that takes place during the slave era. This was an excellent, excellent fucking movie. Excellent. Dynamics, thank you for the super chat, bro. Do you think this is allegorical to see it? To how we'll see his life? He's trapped and doing just so what he can connect back to his family. You know what? Brown paper bags. I didn't think about it like that. The only difference is in this movie, clearly the wife had total faith in her husband. She knew, like, when he fights off the three guys because they're trying to, tussle. I mean, he bit one of them. Ah, goddamn it, the animal bit me. I was like, oh hell no. But I will walk. And then, because then the one slaver put the pistol to his wife's head while he's fighting these three guys off. The other guy, the guy on the horse, he was like, it ain't that serious. Come on. And he withdrew his pistol. You know what I'm saying? Because somehow this guy you knew this guy was special. But that's a good point, Dynamics. Good point. Yeah, Saint Miracle of Saint Anna was dope. That's Spike's best movie, hands down. But his best, come on, man, Antoine's Training Day. Oh my God, what else? This one here. I mean, come on, man. Antoine's got too many bullets in the magazine. You know what I'm saying? So look, I'm gonna get out of here. I just want to talk about that real quick. I'll be back later on with Red Sings the Blues later on tonight. And yeah, so that's my quick breakdown and assessment of Emancipation. It's a beautifully written, shot, performed, directed movie. You're gonna have a hard time legitimately finding something wrong with this movie. This was an excellent film. I recommend everybody go see this. It's on Apple TV. If it's in your theaters, I'm sure it probably maybe under limited theaters screens. But if you have Apple TV, go watch this shit ASAP. Y'all have a good one. Peace.